Yep. Hi team, can everyone hear us? Can someone just reply just so we know we're being heard at the moment? Zero. What did you say?
28 up there.
Ah, 28. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect.
Brilliant.
Nice.
So we've got 29 so far. We might just give it like a couple more minutes then, just until we get a few more people on. Shall we play some background music?
Any requests?
Cool.
Thanks, Candy.
I'm gonna play it. Yeah.
What can you play?
I'm gonna play some music.
Nice.
It's weird, it's got one viewer. Okay, team, we're getting close. We'll start in about a minute, if that's cool. Whoa. Anyone a Bob Marley fan?
Yeah. Pause.
Cool. Silence is awkward. Thanks, Sophie.
We just broke the stereo. Oh, well, we'll break the silence.
Okay. Okay, team. I just want to do a quick intro. This is Cam. He's the mind genius that we've brought on board. So Cam's going to do the secrets to psychology of weight loss. Do you want to do a bit of intro, Cam, and tell everyone who you are?
Cool. So yeah, thanks, Jay. Hi everyone. My name is Cameron. I have been given the pleasure and privilege of getting the opportunity to speak with you all tonight. I've kind of a bit of a background on me. I've spent probably the last 9 years now studying various aspects of psychology. I've actually got a little bit of an intro in the presentation. So if we go in there, it's page 2. So we might start on that. It's got that.
Sing for us.
Sing for us.
I would, but I haven't had enough beers yet.
Jay's on a detox. He's not allowed beer, so we can't. We'll have to be offered something else to sing.
So right, Anastasia, we're on time. Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. So we are actually seeing your comments as well. So this is an interactive session. We're going to be interactive. I'm definitely going to ask some questions, and we can actually see your responses. So you can fire those through on the side, and we can see them. So it's not just entertaining for us. It's going to be quite valuable as well. So yeah, as Jay was saying, my background really is so I'm a hypnotherapist, being neuro-linguistic programming practitioner and coach. I started coaching about 8 years ago. Became really fascinated with psychology, and particularly the ability of psychology to help people go to the next level. That's kind of my passion. I love helping people find limits and then eliminating limits, and so they can experience life on the other side of that. So I kind of come from a mind frame that life is very infinite. You don't have a limit in terms of what you can accomplish, what you can be, what you can achieve. And so I really love bringing that next level out for people and helping people to go to that next level. Over the last 8 months, or last 10 months now, I've had the privilege. We started a fitness facility in Newmarket, New Zealand. So we've had the opportunity to work with some awesome clients, and I see a couple of them on this side of the chat here. Hi guys. So it's a real privilege for me to get to understand a new element of the psychology of people. So tonight we're going to be addressing weight loss psychology specifically. I'm going to go into some of the challenges and some of the issues that face people, and some of the things that you can do to overcome those. So if you have any questions, please, I will try and open things up for a Q&A, definitely at the end. And at times I may ask you a couple of questions, and so feel free to fire away there. So I just want to check first off, can everyone hear? Everyone can hear us perfectly? We're all fine on the audio? If someone wants to just fire across on the comments and just let us know, make sure we're all good. Because it won't be a very interesting webinar if you can't hear me.
Sorry, man, I'm just going to close that now.
It's all right.
Hang on, team. I'm just going to bring up Cam's presentation. So what we'll do is we'll flick in and out between the slides rather than just have the slides up the whole time, just so you can see Cam. You don't want to see my ugly mug.
I don't know, Jay, pretty good looking.
Okay. Loud and cool.
Cool, can you hear? Cool, guys.
Hi, Jess. Cool.
Okay.
So I'll just bring this up.
Hi, Deal. Hey, Jess.
I'm trying to share the screen.
Cool. All right. Screen share, cool.
Oh, fuck. Okay, if I swear again, I'm sorry, but if I swear again, can someone I'll do burpees every time I swear.
Okay, Jay's literally going to do burpees every time he swears, and I'll lift the computer up so you can all watch it. So if he does, call him out. He's going to have to do it.
Cool.
All right, perfect.
That's backwards.
Yeah. Okay, that looks better.
Better?
Nice.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Oh, no. Okay.
All right, cool. So we'll just go through to page 1. Let's begin the presentation. Oh my God.
That's the wrong one. That looks pretty freaky.
Can they see that? Can you see that? That's crazy. Oh, this is a present to everyone. I don't know if it's...
Very good. Cool. Okay, here we go. Better? Sorry, Anna.
Funny, man. Okay, cool. Can everybody see that? Can everyone see that slide?
Better? Okay, so they should see that.
Yeah, just give us a yes on the side if you can see the slides.
Sorry, Tony. Okay, Tim, can you just see if you can see that first slide, and then we can just flick through them as we go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can
Thank
see
you.
that. Yeah, okay. I think there's a little bit of a delay on the comments coming through. That's fine. Okay, cool. So just a bit of a background. Continuing, we lacking tech skills. Yeah, we so I began studying variety psychology. Became very interested in psychology about 8-9 years ago. When the first client I worked with went on to become the top martial artist in the country, won 7 times in a row, and the open weight karate champion, still holds the record. So that kind of got me a little bit obsessed. Then he went on to meet his wife and credited me with that, and I thought, well, it's a bit much, but I got me pretty passionate about creating results for people. So I've gone on since then and I work with a wide variety of different people, as I was saying, various athletes, entrepreneurs, and now in the last 10 months I've had the privilege of being able to work with a lot of women in the area of weight loss. So it's very cool. So my philosophy, as you see there, it's really around finding excellence, finding your particular excellence, what you are amazing at, and then moving you into an awareness of that and focusing and beginning to build your life around that. That tends to be a very powerful way of either bringing up limits that are in your way, but that's also a way of allowing you to move past them. So tonight I'm going to be helping you to find your excellence, and through finding your excellence we're going to come across some of the things that you'll be running into in your life when you're attempting to change your weight. Because the same emotional patterns that are causing you challenges in this area are causing you challenges in your entire life. There is no separation in psychology, so that's kind of the first thing. So before we kick into it, I just want everybody to close their eyes, and I just want you to be still for a minute. I just want you to take a couple of breaths, and I just want you to place your attention in your heart. So just take a few breaths, and as you do that, just close your eyes and just allow yourself to calm. Allow the day to wash out the day that you've just had. Let the stress just kind of fade away, and just relax. So just make your breathing a bit slower. Focus your attention in your body. And as you do that, just notice that as you drop your awareness down into your body, just focus it on your chest where your heart is, and just feel your heart beating. And just bring your attention down into your chest, into your heart, and just say to yourself that you're here, that you're present, and just ask your heart, just ask your mind in the back of your mind and your heart, just ask for any information tonight that you will need to help you to make a change this evening and a change moving forward so that you can get new and positive results, okay? As we put our intentions inside of ourselves, as we put our attention inside of ourselves and become present, we gain access to greater really cool stuff now. So just make sure you've got yourself ready for the next sort of hour that we're going to block out so that we can do some really cool work. So okay, coming back now, and open your eyes. We will shoot through, if we can, to the second slide. And I'll just start on it. We'll get the slide in a second. So weight loss is, to first and foremost, is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. And along with that, we have millions and millions of women worldwide struggling with this issue. Now, the lie, basically there are a large number of lies which have been built on more lies and more lies on top of that. And those lies are really preventing you from accessing your true power. And there's an entire market designed to keep you from accessing your true power. So Jay's having fun with the technical stuff here. So we have a whole market that's set up, a whole really societal culture which has been set up, which is creating a number of emotional challenges which you now experience in your day-to-day life, and we have a particular way of focusing on them which has been largely conditioned. So I want to try to unpick some of that conditioning tonight so that you can look at these challenges in a new way. So the second thing a distinction I want to make, and we'll go into that societal thing, we may jump back and forth a bit, but is that there's a difference between rules and tools. So it's all very well to know what to do, basically, but that doesn't always help you to do it. So you know very well that there are times where, okay, you know that you shouldn't be eating that food, for example, but you're still doing it. So what we need to do is we need to teach you and impart some skills that you can use to actually rewire your brain, because fundamentally, if you're looking at weight loss, if the things that get in your way realistically are the behaviors that you know what to do. It's when you can't do them, or it's when you don't do them when you know that you should. So when you logically know you should do the behavior, when you emotionally is what drives you, when you don't actually end up doing it, that's the issue that we need to get to. So there's a number of those, and they kind of unpack, but it's really crucial to actually start to practice using some of the tools that I'm going to share with you, because what they will allow you to do is rewire your brain, and that is exactly what we need you to do. So you really do need to start to rewire your own brain, and so I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to do that today. There are a wide variety of different tools. I'm going to give you a couple of them, and ranging all the way up to some of the more powerful ones, which we can talk about later on, which cost thousands of dollars. But we'll try and give you some basic ones today. So distinction here is that we're not wired to be thin. So we obviously did not grow up or evolve in an environment where there was abundance of food. Particularly, there was not an abundance of easily accessible, high sugary foods, which there are today. And that wide variety was certainly not marketed to connect directly to other emotional drives and needs that we have, so that we would unconsciously crave that food, even though there was no survival benefit for it. So as a result, we have found ourselves now in the society that we've created, which really is the exact antithesis of what we would really want if we were going to have no issues with self-discipline or with willpower, because we are living in a time where we have created whole industries over the last 100 years have now created essentially legal drugs designed to do nothing more than co-opt your entire behavior. So if you think that hasn't been happening, then unfortunately you need to wake up, because it really has been happening. And there are food chemists who have been spending the last 50 years millions and millions of dollars designing food, well, I use food in loose terms, but designing things that they market as food, or experiences, like a chocolate bar or something like that, which is marketed, or Coke is a perfect example, open happiness, which is, of course, you're not opening happiness at all. You're opening a sugar addiction and a hell of a lot of pain. But that's not how it's marketed. So we have to understand that when we have entered into this society, we are really playing with a brain which has been co-opted by massive, massive organizational systems, and also by the environment that we're around. So I'm going to show you how that happens as we go into this next thing. So to understand how we're going to create successful weight loss, we need to know that your emotions are the key. Without mastering the emotional drives that are behind the behaviors inside of you, we are going to find, or you're going to find, very large challenges in executing consistently the behaviors that you need to take in order to achieve the long-term result of weight loss. Now, most of you know what you need to be doing. So it's not the problem of knowing what you need to be doing, it's the problem of actually doing it. Now, the first thing to be clear is we understand that you're existing within a societal construct. You exist within society where you have such enormous and fundamental forces working to change your brain for your own, not for your benefit. We need to understand that if you're going to successfully go against that kind of a current, the rates of obesity are so high, the rates of societal, the societal health challenges are so high, you're now living within an environment, within an ecosystem which is by and large poisoned. So we need to understand that, and if at any time we want to go against the current, if we at any time want to start to train our brain and our emotions and train who we are to operate against the natural flow of what everybody else is doing, you have to understand and appreciate the level of drive and the level of determination that you're going to need in order to do that. It's all very well to say, okay, this is why people set New Year's resolutions. They set New Year's resolution, great, you know what, I'm going to do it differently this year. But if you want to go against your own history and your own individual ecosystem that you have created over an extended period of time, which includes your social ecosystem, your family ecosystem, your work ecosystem, all of the relationships, the emotional behaviors, the emotional patterns, and the consistent behaviors. If you now want to go against that, you need to understand that in order to successfully do that, you're going to require an ongoing level of drive. You can't simply make one decision to do it and say, okay, I'm going to do it, it's done, and you're never going to need that kind of discipline or that core emotional strength again. It's just not going to happen. So no matter where you are in your journey, no matter how far you've come, no matter how far or how little you've come, if you've just started, or if you've fallen off and you're starting again, you need to appreciate that no matter how far you go, you're always going to consistently need to be developing that level of core emotional strength, which is going to be the actual determinant long term of whether or not you're going to succeed. So, and by the way, this particular core emotional strength is the same strength that you're going to need to succeed in anything else, which is why the pattern of this is so integral to everything in your life, and why weight loss doesn't operate in isolation. So you don't simply lose weight and not have it affect every other area of your life. It must affect every other area of your life because you're trying to change who you are as a person. So as soon as you try and do that, everything else in your life needs to adjust. It's like you can't go into a watch and just take one of the pieces out and just try to change that. The whole watch won't work. So you need to change a lot of different pieces in the system, okay? So, yep, we're just going to do a tech check. Make sure everybody is all good. Pizza. Put that pizza away, Catherine. Awkward silence. Can we? You can still hear us, can't you? So, can you? Yeah, just fire up. We can see. Cool. Perfect. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure everything's all good. With some technical difficulties last time.
Thanking you. Okay, shall we?
Perfect. Okay, cool. So, all right. So, moving into we're not wired to be thin. So, the sugary foods that you've been eating have a double negative effect, unfortunately, and it seems to be that this effect is worse with females. So, unfortunately, that's how it is. But here's how it happens. We have in our brain, if you've ever met someone that had a gambling addiction or was addicted to anything, you'll know how this works. But basically, we have a biological basis of addiction. Now, what happens is, if we ignore that big complicated lines there, essentially what happens is we have something which gives us pleasure, and our brain wants to go and do it again. And it's really that simple. Now, the problem is that if we have these super pleasures, there are certain things inside the world which are basically super stimuli, and particular types of food are in that category. So various types of drugs are in that category, as well as, that's where you see as well as things like gambling, and certain types of food. Now,
this is a really good point. I found out today that on the food note,
yes,
that the combination of sugar and fat is the worst one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, which is crazy. So if you look at all the food that's being churned out that people get addicted to, that's it, right? Like,
go keto.
Yeah, exactly. So, you go to a food court's the perfect example. Like, butter chicken's just filled with sugar, right? Like, they put sugar in everything because you add sugar and the fat together, and you've got this like absolute drug.
You got heaven.
Yeah, you got heaven, right? Yeah, exactly. So everybody knows what that feeling is like. Now, if you capture that feeling is like complete satiation. Your brain is just like, it's in heaven. It's literally heaven, right? It feels like ecstasy to your brain. Now, the problem with that, obviously, is that if it's not related to something which is positive, we are now wiring our brain to want it. So the problem is we've all been exposed to those things, and so we've now going to have that association, which is so strong and is built up over such a long period of time, that wiring in our brain is extremely strong. I mean, it really is extremely strong. And the double negative again here, sorry to be just continuously giving you bad news, but I'm trying to give you the reality of the situation, is that again, we don't have the cultural forces in play to help move you in the other direction. So if you take somebody out of an environment where they have been using to create this addiction, and you take them out for a while, then that addictive behavior tends to drop off. But then you go and put them back in the environment, it tends to start again, right? So you have people that are drug addicts, they go into a rehab center, and then they come out, and the next thing you know, they're drinking and whatever all again. Now, the problem is you're not able to extricate yourself from the environment. You literally cannot take yourself out of Western civilization. So you now need to develop, again, what I'm going to continue to come back to, this level of emotional strength within yourself to continue to press forward in order to kind of find new pleasures, basically, which are going to override these old ones. So in terms of stress, because stress is such a huge driver of the cravings for this, and I'm going to touch more into the cravings, but if you have a bad day and you get stressed and you go into a negative state, now if you go and eat something to take away that negative state, which is what a lot of people do, instantly you have created a massive biochemical change because you feel amazing, the state's gone, the stress isn't there anymore, you're temporarily satiated, your mind isn't going to think about what's going wrong at work because you're in too much pleasure. So your brain is releasing all these chemicals, and now because your brain's releasing all these chemicals, you can't mentally focus on what you need to be focused on. You're now in it's basically like a delusional reality. So when you're there, you don't need to focus on it. You don't feel any requirement to focus on what's real or what's important. And so instead, you actually just go off into la la land. Now, that's totally fine, except for the fact that if you do it on a regular basis, it becomes very addictive. And in fact, it's addictive so quickly because of the structure of the foods that you do it a couple of times and you're going to start having cravings for a long period of time after it. So you will go through withdrawals if you try and drop this stuff off.
I was going to say, because this is something we do. Mm-hmm. Spend most of our day orientated around, isn't it? Like food, we're so orientated around food that the wrong combination, and you've got yourself a world of hurt, really, don't you?
You do, absolutely. And it's critical because again, the natural structures that you go to eat within are not the type of food. It's so hard to get the kind of food that's actually helpful. Yeah. So you go and there ends up being a social cost to changing the way you eat. Yes. So now we have a social cost. Now you've got people going, why are you eating like this? Like, what's wrong with you? And who do you think you are? And all this stuff. So anytime you try to make this kind of a change, you're now under even more stress.
So you're like swimming up a river.
Yeah, you're swimming up a river. It is exactly like that. And it's the only way to think about it because it is not effortless. It's the opposite of effortless. Like, nothing could be harder. Swimming uphill against any current in society is so incredibly difficult. So we really need to be really clear that this is where we're playing at. And if you're going to get stressed, if you're going to go down this road, things are going to happen to you which are going to be things which will trigger stress. You're going to have these experiences where you're like, they will trigger feelings of being hopeless, of being alone, of feeling lost, of being like feeling depressed. You feel like you're losing friends, like relationships, like all of these things exist within this tight ecosystem which you've put yourself into. So if you start changing the way you eat to try and change the weight that you're in, the behaviors that you need to create for that is going to automatically disturb that environment. As soon as you start disturbing that environment, the very first thing that happens is you start to get challenged. You don't just magically get supported. There isn't like a floodgate of people that just suddenly say, congratulations, great, you're changing your life, easy, here it is, done. It's not how it works. Unfortunately, it's the exact opposite. So,
Can we do a Q&A on this later?
Absolutely.
I'm sure, like, I've spoken to lots of the girls in the community, and this is quite a common thing. So it'd be great to get your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll definitely try. What I'll try and do is we'll fly through this stuff, and then we'll go into a Q&A so that we can go back and forth. So the key thing here to understand is that's a lot of content right off the bat. Okay, so just getting your head around that is pretty significant. Now, if we're going to go from understanding that and we're going to go to understanding, okay, well, if we're going to go forward in terms of this direction of our weight, what I want you to understand is I kind of want you to get your head off the weight. So I want you to take your primary focus is being off the weight, because what tends to happen is you focus so much on this thing about the weight, but I want you to ask, why are you doing that in the first place? Why do you want to change your weight? Now, presumably you want to change the way you feel and these sorts of things, and that is why you want to create, what you're really trying to do is create yourself. I'm going to put the idea to you like this. You're trying to create yourself into the person you most want to be. In other words, you're trying to create life living in alignment with your highest values. Okay. Now, someone can feel free to come back and forth with me, but we are usually trying to create life from our highest values. Now, we might not know what those values are, and we may also not have even chosen those values. So we can be running unconscious. Now, what happens a lot of the time is suddenly we will wake up and we say, oh my God, look around at my life, I need to change my life. And so now suddenly we're going, okay, I'm now driven to change my life, but of course we come back to that situation where now around us we've created over an extended period of time this environment where we have all these people who are not supporting us, we have all these behaviors and all these environments which are just not helpful, and now suddenly we change our value and we say, you know what, I really want to get healthy. I'm sick of living like this. I'm sick of living unhealthy. I'm sick of letting myself go down like this. I'm sick of giving in to not being the best that I can be. So we decide, okay, you know what, I'm going to be like that from now on. And suddenly it's like this optimism and we feel really positive about it. But what we don't realize is we've got all of this underlying behavioral motivation, momentum that we have to now deal with. Okay, so we have got these negative food addictions which have been created, these emotions that we've been blocking out because we didn't want to deal with them, because we weren't ready to deal with them, and because it was just easier most of the time to allow that to happen. Now, as soon as you really start to make that concerted effort to really change that whole dynamic that you're living your life from, then you'll see very quickly just how many of these negative emotions are going to start to come up. So what I'm going to start to put to you is the idea that we want to start to observe and interrupt these emotions, okay? So rather than letting these emotions run us, which is what most people do, we want to start to learn to observe these emotions, and we want to interrupt these emotions, okay? So doing those two things. We want to observe the emotions, we want to interrupt the emotions, okay? So that's kind of a precursor for some of the tools later on. Okay, cool. So this is a key distinction. And this one distinction, if you practice becoming aware of this one distinction over a period of 6 to 12 months, you will completely override the old programming and rewire your brain so that you don't ever have to worry about being dominated by cravings again. This is the distinction between brain hunger and body hunger. Now, you know the difference. Every single person knows the difference, but some people are, well, a lot of us are so disconnected from our bodies that we can't physically feel the difference anymore. So we need to start to practice, are we experiencing brain hunger or body hunger? And you will have had this, I imagine, with clients and with people as well, right?
Yeah, I've been having it with myself as we've been going through this, study, the experiment. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So basically, your brain will be craving something, and that is an emotional hunger. It's not a physical need. You don't have the physical requirement to actually be needing the food at any given time. Then when you've got the cravings for food at a time, you just really need to eat. Like, you just know that it's brain hunger, okay? It doesn't come with the normal salivation and the standard feelings of hunger and the normal flow of that, the appetite, and as that comes on, it's a different kind of hunger. And as you get practiced in becoming aware of that distinction, first you're going to become aware of it. You're not just going to magically just get rid of it straight away. It's because it's been built up over such a long period of time. We've built highways in our brain to make this happen quicker and easier and faster so that it happens quickly. Now, when we start to change it, we need to become aware, and then we're going to need to, through that awareness over time, ask yourself the question, is this brain hunger or is this body hunger? And just constantly be asking that question all day, every day, all day, every day, all day, every day. So if you're going to obsess over something, this is what you want to obsess over. Is this brain hunger or is this body hunger? Is this brain hunger or is this body hunger? Continue to make that distinction. There are people who literally have been in your position who now just eat healthily on a regular basis and they don't have these cravings anymore. Okay, or if they do, they just don't have to pay attention to them because they have wired this into their brain. And the more times you practice this, every time you practice it, you're literally rewiring the brain. So we want to continue to ask ourselves, is this brain hunger or body hunger? Brain hunger or body hunger? So the brain starts to create this differentiation of allowing you to see those two things really easily. Now, If you're not focused on this, your brain doesn't know that this is important, and it doesn't know that it wants to focus on it, so it's not going to change your brain around it. The more you focus on distinction, making this distinction, the easier that your brain is going to find it to be able to give you the information at the right time. Okay? And you'll start to notice, hey, when I get body hungry, I get certain feelings, and when I get brain hungry, I get other feelings. And you'll start to recognize it, and it won't be able to trick you as much. And that's the thing. We eat this food, and then we realize afterwards, oh man, I totally didn't need that. That totally wasn't what I wanted, but it's too late at that point. So by becoming more aware of the signals that you're getting earlier on in the piece, you can start to counteract them. So that's a practice that you need to do, and I'm going to recommend that you all do it. So these underlying emotions that we're going to come through with, okay, so this gets pretty deep. So if we're going to start to really dig into this area, then we have to be clear. This does get pretty deep. Now, if you're not living your values, if you're going to work every day, if you are turning up to friends and you're going to your family and you're with a partner and you're living your life, but you are not expressing your highest values and you are not consistently moving towards your highest values, if you're not doing that, you will be experiencing negative emotions. These emotions of guilt, of shame, of anger, directed internally at yourself will be a constant companion for you. And the reason is because they're designed like that. They're supposed to do that to make it painful for you not to live as you are. Because if you don't live as who you are, who are you living as? That's the key question. So if you're not living as who you are, what are you trying? You're obviously living into someone else's story for what your life's supposed to be. You must be, because otherwise you'd be living your values. Now, the challenge, one of the greatest challenges that we all have to face is accepting that our values are what they are and we want what we want. If we aren't prepared to accept that, we're doomed to a life of misery because we're constantly trying to live someone else's story and we've taken someone else's values and we've put them inside ourselves and we're judging ourselves by their values. Now, as soon as you start judging yourself by their values, you're stuffed because you still want all of the things that you want. You can't take away the fact that you want those things. That's part of who you are. It's intrinsic to your nature. So if you're suddenly wanting all these things, but you have someone else's values inside you and you're judging yourself for wanting those things, like let's say that you want to change your career. Well, let's say you never wanted your career in the first place, but you did that because a great example, I work very close to the medical school, and a lot of medical students do it because their parents told them to do it. Now, what are you going to do long term if you end up in that scenario? Well, in that scenario, you're obviously living somebody else's values. So we need to be really, really careful in life. We have to have the self-awareness to know ourselves, to know what we need, and to discover who we really are so we can express those values in the world. Now, if you don't know what those values are, that's going to create a huge problem as well because you're going to have a constant experience of not only just confusion, but you're also going to have that on top of the guilt, the anger, the shame, the resentment directed at yourself for not living who you are in the world. And any time when you don't live who you are in the world, you run into trouble. So I can't emphasize this more than, I cannot overemphasize how important it is that you identify what's critical to you. What you really, really need to focus on is the number one thing is being who you are, your identity that you're creating, and the values that you hold there, and learning how to find ways to express them. Okay, it's absolutely critical, and you will never be happy until you do that. And until you are happy, you can't successfully achieve elimination of those emotions of the guilt, the shame directed at yourself. And until you really can eliminate those on a large scale, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to move forward with weight loss because those emotions are holding up these compulsive eating behaviors.
Sam, just quickly, if this particular point resonates with you, can you just leave a note for us? Because I'll just record it in the comments. It's I'm finding this fascinating.
Cool.
This is awesome.
Awesome. So to go on from that, we need to discover what our core values are. We must discover what they are, and they can be as general or specific as you like, but to cut a middle ground, you can go specific to certain qualities in your life, and you can do it a couple of ways. So you can say, look, I value love and truth and integrity or what have you, and they might be one way that you identify what your core value list is, and you might come up with, say, your top 5 values that are the most important to you. Now, if you come up with those top 5 values and you identify that actually in your environment right now you have 3 primary relationships that you spend a lot of your time with who are not in alignment with these core values, then you've just identified this huge disconnect, which you might have been denying, by the way, because you probably in your gut knew that there was a disconnect at an earlier time, but we tend to ignore the gut until we create a big problem. That's how we tend to wake up. So you create these core values. Well, you don't create them, you've already got them, but you just discover what they are, and you finally get honest and real with yourself, and you say, oh my God, actually, my environment right now is not in alignment with my core values. So now if you're conscious of this, this is why people, by the way, they actually choose not to become conscious of this. Because as soon as you're conscious of this, the pain is very, very real, and it's very visceral, and it's in your face. And as soon as you become conscious of those things, as soon as you become conscious of that disconnect, you immediately are primed. You've got to now do something about it. Now, the actions that you might need to take might bring up amazing amounts of fear. So we're actually avoiding fear by going into self-denial. So it actually serves us. It serves us very, very well. Let's say in order for us to express our values, we need to tell one of our parents that we actually don't want to live the life the way that they, or be the person that they think that we are, or that they've controlled us or conditioned us to be. Maybe we need to tell a partner or a friend. Maybe we need to release a relationship in our life. Maybe we need to release a job. Maybe we need to move houses or cities. Maybe we need to start again. Who knows? Whatever you need to do, though, based on your core values, isn't going to change. It's still going to be there because your core values are not going anywhere. And if I can express anything to you right now, it's this. Your core values aren't going anywhere. They're going to stay around. They're your values. This is who you are in your deepest soul. So until you find a way to actually identify and express them, and the identification process is not complex. You just want to really just go and be introspective for a while. Ask yourself, what do you spend time on? What are you drawn to? What do you who do you like to be? Who are your role models? Who do you find that you look up to? And identify the qualities that are inherent in that. And see those things and see if you can find, okay, well, this is really what I'm about. And knowing that, then look at your environment and see, well, how well aligned am I really? Maybe you work for a company or in an organization who has very different values to you. Maybe you work in a team that has very different values to you. Well, that's going to create misery day after day after day. And that misery is going to drive you to want to eat terrible food. So anytime you've got a disconnect between your environment and the values that you have and your ability to express those values in the world, every time you don't express those values, you create this internal psychological and emotional trauma. You genuinely continue to create trauma for yourself. Now, as you create trauma, the only way that you can now deal with reality is to just dumb yourself down. One of the best ways to dumb yourself down is food. So that's why we get this addictive nature going on. We're just deeply, deeply denying that we've actually got these incongruencies, these huge incongruencies in our life, that we're not being authentic, we're not expressing ourselves as we are, and because we're not doing that for whatever reason, because maybe we have a belief that someone will hate us or will reject us brutally if we try and do that, and so we're like, well, that seems too painful, so it's less painful to just do this and to go into denial. So whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the point is that as long as that reason is there, as long as that reason is running in the back of your mind, then you can't move beyond it. And until you move beyond it, you're not going to experience the freedom that comes with moving beyond it. Because there's huge, huge freedom in expressing your values in the world and realizing you can express your values in the world. Because as complex and challenging as our world is, we do have a beautiful opportunity to express our values like never before. So there's so much diversity. It's really an amazing place for you to be able to express every different aspect of yourself in the world. And every time you can't express something, you are creating some problem internally, which is going to manifest emotionally. And when it manifests emotionally, we will need to eat often.
So is this like a kind of form of self-harm?
Yeah, it is. In my view, it's a form of self-harm.
Yeah, you can see it. Like, yeah. I mean, I can, and it'd be cool to hear what anyone else thinks, but I can see how it's almost like self-torture, because, you know,
100%.
The cycle that people, or, you know, we go through in terms of abuse and then trying to get ourselves back on track, and then abuse and then get ourselves back on track. You know,
exactly.
It's cyclical, isn't it?
It is, absolutely, and it's a brutal cycle. It absolutely is brutal. In my view, there is nothing more brutal than not living life by values, by not being able to express your values. Now, very often we've been taught at a younger age that it wasn't okay.
Yeah.
So there was a reason why it wasn't okay at the time. Someone told us that we couldn't express this value. Someone told us that it was wrong. Someone told us that we were bad for expressing this value. And what happens is we take someone else's values at that point, and we say, because they're an authority to us at the time, we say they are the ones who are right. And so we put that value system inside of ourselves, and now we judge our real values, who we really are, by them.
And that's at a young age. Yeah.
Oh, very young age. We usually do this at a very young age. And the problem again is that they might not have even been, they might have just been having a bad day.
Yeah, wow.
Right? But they needed to take it out on someone. And so we create these massive traumas outside of ourselves, and we go, oh man, now I can't express these values.
So that becomes a very big kind of directive for your entire life then, doesn't it?
It becomes a huge directive for your entire life. And people go through their whole life without ever actually overcoming these things. They really can, because they never go to the level of introspection. But even then, some of these things can become so emotionally wired, it's very difficult for you to overcome just with simple cognitive stuff, and that can require some more heavy-duty tools to do. And that's I can talk about that later if anyone wants me to. So once you've discovered your values and beliefs, you might want to dig into this kind of just going over what we just said, really, the rules that might be preventing you from achieving those or from moving forward to those values. So are you feeling guilty that, okay, if maybe my parents put so much into me, but I really need to go and do this, or my friends, they've got this whole thing going on, I'm really scared, I know that if I start being like this, then they're going to kind of reject me, or I'm going to have to go out on my own, and I really don't feel like I can do that, I don't feel strong enough. So we tend to go through these cycles of going into more and more and more pain until we finally go, you know what, it's just too painful, I need to move on. Well, I want to wake you up tonight and just say, look, if you're continuing to go down the cycle, then you're just creating massive amounts of pain for yourself. So it's only going to end in that way. You can live more like a zombie, where you're half alive and where you've constantly got this ongoing internal struggle. Or you can identify your values and just realize, you know what, I've only got one life. It is my life. I have to live by these values, because if I don't, then at the end of the day, I'm just going to be causing myself pain for a very long period of time. So I really implore you to try to identify and then move beyond the barriers that are standing in the way of you living your values. So there is a caveat here. Some of the traumas that people experience can be deeper than you can eliminate with basic cognitive work, and you may require more thorough sort of assistance with that. So you can get that through things like, exploring yourself more deeply with, say, a counsellor or a psychologist, and there are some other tools that we can use to kind of do it when the emotions just seem to be beyond your ability to logically override them. So we'll give you some tools for that. But
psychotherapists put into the same?
Yeah, so some types of psychotherapy are very helpful, other types are ineffective. Okay. So it's helpful to find someone that maybe comes very well recommended in that regard. Otherwise, it can be sitting on the couch for several years and pay a lot of money.
Can we maybe just quickly distinguish between the two?
Yep.
Psychology and
so psychotherapy is a particular type of therapy where you're asked, in its purest form, you would sit down and you would just begin to kind of free speak about your story. Now, one of the challenges with that is that when we go back and we recreate story, we actually recreate stories. So the memories get edited as we talk about them, and so we continue to think that we're getting to the core of something, when actually all we're doing is just recreating a series of memories, and they all feel real, and then we don't even know what's real and what's not anymore. So it's not actually necessarily that relevant. What we really just want to do is figure out a way to change the emotions so we can move on.
Gotcha.
At the end of the day. So
distinction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, it's very helpful. It can save 2 years of not getting anywhere, actually. So if we're going to enter the achieve weight loss long term, we need to take these values and we need to enter the growth zone. So when I say the growth zone, I mean it on an emotional level. So if you identify your values, I guarantee you, without any exceptions, you're going to find suddenly there is a disconnect between the life that you have and the life that you now realize that you want. Now, that's going to be a gap, and that gap is going to be a growth gap. And now, in order for you to make the success for long term, what you're now going to need to do is you're going to need to start closing that growth gap. So in order to do that, you're going to need to develop emotional capacities that you haven't previously had or had to express, because the universe loves to have you grow. Now, as soon as you start doing that, you're going to run into every single limiting belief and limiting challenge that you've had that's been standing in the way, that's been in the back of your mind all this time, running you without you realizing it. You're going to have the beliefs come up. Oh, you know, you can't do that. You're going to hear all, you know, the voices of people that were telling you the rules back in the day, which you've taken on. You're going to hear maybe your friend's voice, or your parents' voice, your mum or your dad, you know, someone critical, a critical teacher, anybody. But any of these limiting beliefs, they're going to start to manifest in your life. You're going to start to have situations where they are going to trigger these beliefs in you. And as soon as those beliefs get triggered, you're going to have the opportunity to run straight back to the old patterns and to say, you know what, this is just too hard. These emotional things, it's just not worth it. I don't want to deal with this. I don't have the strength for it, and so I'm not going to move through it. Now, we actually can do that for decades. There are people who will go back and forth like this for decades and decades and decades and decades. Now, I don't want you to do that. I don't think that's a very helpful idea. I think we want you to continue to move forward, and I'm sure that you do too. So some of the basic tips for doing this is you need to surround yourself with people who are really going to encourage you. There are going to be people in your life who just are not good for you. They're just really, really not bringing you forward. Now, anytime you're going to attempt to make a change, you're basically, it's like having a little sapling in a forest, and that tiny little seed, and you plant this tiny little seed, and it's like, you know, that seed to you isn't just a seed. That seed is like your entire dream. It's every single thing. It's like your whole heart. So be very careful, who you tell that to, because you're so vulnerable when you start making these decisions, and you haven't built strength and you haven't built momentum yet, that if you don't start moving towards that in not in a secretive way, but by really being very, very selective about who you allow into that space with you as you start to grow that part of yourself out and that confidence starts to come out, you've got to be very selective, because it's very, very easy for you to be trampled and just to go back into scared mode, okay? I call it zombies in Scare City, because everybody's living in fear and they're all living half-lives as zombies, right? So we really want to move forward. You've got to be very careful about the environments and the people that you associate with, and the kind of the way you share that information. So doing things like this, paying attention and filling your mind with really positive and powerful information like this is very helpful to continue to inspire the belief within yourself that you can be more, that you can become more, that you can succeed, you can overcome these patterns. As long as you continue to get that belief inside yourself, that belief will eventually do the work for you. But you do have to continue to get that belief inside yourself, and it's not going to happen automatically when you're surrounded by an environment which hasn't supported you and this new you. It's been the old you that created it. So to create a whole environment with your new self, you first have to create the new self. But that's very difficult. It's kind of a catch-22, because you're in an environment your old self created, but you want to be your new self. So there's a bit of a weird scenario there. So you have to make this really arduous trek through like all of the different difficulties, the limiting beliefs that you come up against, all the restrictions that you've allowed yourself to believe were true and were going to block you, and you have to develop a lot of emotional competencies along the way. So as you do that, you'll find that your inner strength begins to grow, and then as your inner strength begins to grow, you'll get the capacities to deal with some of these bigger challenges. Okay, and so hopefully the next slide is going to be, okay, we've got challenges here. So, okay, cool. We're actually going to do a quick visualization. So I want you to close your eyes now, and I want you to imagine that you are becoming the person you really want to be. Now, if you don't have your exact values mapped out right now, don't worry. Just allow whatever comes to mind. We've connected already inside your mind, so whatever comes to mind will be the right thing. Just imagine you being and living the way that you want to live, and just being free to be who you are, and not having this weight concern, not worrying, not obsessing, not feeling guilty, being free to eat what you need to eat, knowing you eat the right things. It's not stressful, and just living from that place. And I just want you to enjoy that for a moment. Just go through this experience, enjoying being you, enjoying being this version of you who's living from her highest values, who is enjoying life, who's made strong decisions, strong, powerful decisions, and she's created the life that she wants. I want you to imagine waking up in the morning and opening your eyes as this individual, right? Thinking about what the day holds as this individual. And just feel what that's like. Feel what this feels like. And ask yourself if this feels like something that's worth fighting for. And I hope the answer is yes. because no one has yet proven that there's a limit to what you can achieve. No one's done that, and no one ever will do that. I mean, people try to do that for thousands of years. So it's totally achievable for you to become the person that you really want to become, and the person that you can be in your heart. And that's not just some woo-woo, like, positive thinking rubbish. It's really the truth. So it's important to understand that we need to think about what is it going to be you're going to allow to stop you from becoming this person. Because fundamentally, it comes down to what you allow. Will you allow yourself to give up? Will you allow one of your limiting beliefs to get in the way? Will you allow a structure that you're in, a social structure, a work structure, family structure, or a financial structure? Will you allow one of those things to be the thing that stops you? Because if you will, then that's cool, that's your choice. But if you won't, there are people out there who are not going to. And there are people out there who are going to fight to become that individual. So you can open your eyes now. And I hope you got some connection to what you might be able to become and who you're becoming right now, because we're always changing, we're always evolving, we're always growing. So as you get those images, it's a great way of seeing where the target is, what it is that you're evolving into. So we really want to do that. And this is an amazing quote that I love around this, which is, envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. It is suicide to live somebody else's life. You will absolutely never be happy, and you will never, ever, ever achieve anything that you really, even if you achieve amazing things, you're still going to inside feel empty and hollow. You must be able to live your own life and to focus on creating the ideal you, and because by doing that, you're going to find the most joy and the most benefits. And yes, actually, you'll find some of the most challenging times as well, because it's always more painful instantly at the time to feel like I know who I am, and I'm really trying to be that, and I'm really being roadblocked, and it feels incredibly painful. But those are the things that create the emotional strength, which in the long term allow you to be the person that you are, which is going against the tide. And we have to have those experiences because we need to build that emotional strength. And I love the first part of this quote, which is, envy is ignorance, because a lot of people fall into this trap of being jealous, and jealousy is just an absolute dead end. You also, not only do you not know what the internal experience is of this individual that you would be being jealous of, but the exact traits that you're going to be being jealous of, because we're always jealous of a particular trait that they have or a result they've got, the same traits that they have in there, you have them inside yourself anyway. You're just denying them. And so anytime we feel jealousy, you need to be aware, actually, it's just some part of myself saying, hey, I'm in here as well. And there's an individual in your reality who is manifesting that for you to say, hey, look at me, I actually have this trait. So you might look at a beautiful woman, you might say, oh, I'm so jealous because of how she looks or how she can be graceful. But if we really look at it, and I know this is true because we've done this for so many people, if you really look at it, you will find example after example after example of the exact same traits that you're finding that you're envious of in someone else. Maybe it's a celebrity or something like this. Maybe it's someone's grace or poise or whatever it is, effortlessness. You have those same traits in you, and you have them to the same extent. And not only that, but the other person that you were jealous of has the exact opposite traits and in the same volume as well. So life tends to be in balance, and we have both of these things inside us. So I just really love this quote. I really wanted to kind of put it out there because it's a really powerful summation of everything I've been saying. So hopefully by now, you will have, after that introduction really, you'll have a good understanding of why we end up with compulsive eating. So why we end up generating these emotions and why we end up craving these foods. It's the biological and it's also the psychological, which is the emotional stuff. And that emotional stuff, recapping, is generated from us not living the way that we really need to be living in life. It's not from not expressing ourselves the way we need to express. We're not living life by our highest values. And through not doing that, we create these dangerous scenarios which cause these emotions inside of us. And because we don't want to deal with those emotions, we end up craving food because it's such an easy way out. And those food addictions become brain addictions, and those brain addictions cause us all kinds of havoc. Once we have an addicted brain, we need to rewire and heal the brain, and that can take a long time. So we require a lot of patience. Now,
I like what you said there. Mm-hmm. The whole idea of healing the brain, and it's
absolutely
it's really one part of of reset now that has become almost like, for me, the driving force behind the whole platform of the program, which is about like healing your body and healing your metabolism. You know, it's
Totally.
like, I guess the same way that we're Cam and I are both doing the experiment, by the way. So we're just kind of sharing stories. And one thing I found that through the experiment is I've got I thought I was pretty healthy before, but there's a different level of mental clarity that's happened here. You know.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I've look at reset now as being not just the weight loss program. I kind of look at it now. Weight loss is just default. It's just what happens when you start to look after your body. You know, it's like
absolutely.
So the healing element is one of the things that kind of I now believe is one of the core values of reset. So when you talk about this is awesome. Like this is completely in line with what I believe. You know. Yep,
absolutely. And yeah, it really is about healing, and it's once we've we live in a culture which isn't healed. So fundamentally, there's a lot of things which are manifesting in our lives, both in society and individual lives, which require healing. So this is one of those things.
Can we just have a 2-second break?
Yeah.
We're just going to have a 2-second coconut oil break if anyone else wants to.
Well, I'm going to have walnuts, so you can.
I'm going to show you this. Like Sean and I, well, I should say, not Sean and I, but Sean made this coconut oil thing that we just dig into all day, every day. I'll show you when the camera is back up.
So you can't see that right now. That's right.
Okay, we're back.
Cool. So this is a really, really huge thing. Now, there's a huge stigma amongst women around compulsive eating, and almost without fail, whenever somebody eats poorly as a result of an emotional situation, they know logically they shouldn't have done it, and they end up doing it. Almost without fail, the default strategy to go to is to attack with shame and guilt. So instantly, without doing it, you go boom, straight into shame and straight into guilt. And you do it without even thinking about it. And most people never even question it. They're just like, oh, I'm so useless, why can't I do this, da 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 da. And of course, they have no understanding that when your brain is being hijacked, and your brain's being hijacked in this powerful way, and there's all these dynamics happening in the background, you stand very little chance of overcoming those things. And then when you add into it the fact that you add in shame and guilt after it, what you don't realize is the shame and guilt actually makes things worse. So if we go to the next slide, the premises of the compulsive eating, of going into guilt and shame, is, hey, I should be doing better, I should be trying harder. Now, how many of you have tried harder? I mean, every woman has tried so hard. They've put every little bit of focus into this, but it's not that that's actually going to make it better. That actually makes it worse. We get more and more guilty. We feel even worse. We feel more shame. And it's so common for people with an addict brain to feel incredibly shameful about their behavior. They don't want to behave that way, but their brain needs healing. And we really need to come to this realization that with this eating patterns, even if we suddenly realize our values tomorrow, we've still wired these patterns in so deeply that it's not just going to magically happen. It's probably going to take you a year. I'm sorry to be the bearer of that news, but it's probably going to take you a year before you fully heal this. A year of actually focusing on it. It really is challenging, and it requires a lot of experiences that are very positive associated with changing this behavior. And it really, really takes a little bit of time. So we need to be very, very patient with ourselves as a result. Expecting ourselves, some people will be 12 weeks in or 6 months in and, have a binge, and it's like, boom, straight into the guilt, into the shame again. It feels like you've made no progress at all, and nothing could be further from the truth. It is absolutely an absolute fallacy that you've made no progress. Every single day, every single time where you pass something up that that you maybe normally would have eaten, or you would normally have turned to a pattern of eating it's because of the stress that you're under, or whatever the situation is, every single time you interrupt that pattern, you've made progress.
So it's like instilling a habit.
It's 100% like instilling a habit. The only challenge with it is that the degree to which your brain is wired to hold on to the old habit is so extreme that it's a completely different level of challenge. Okay, it's not like waking up to exercise. It's not like, you know, I'm going to work for an hour and then have a break and then work for an hour. It's not like stopping to eat. It's such a different level of addiction. The addictive the brain, the way it's structured, is so different. It's affected you on such a chemical level.
And I guess again, so because we eat so consistently throughout the day, like if we've been eating shit for 20 years, it's one of those habits.
100%. Yeah, I mean, if you wired someone for 20 years in one particular way, and then for people to suddenly be like, okay, I'm suddenly going to break this today, then it's so unreasonable to expect that. And it's our expectations that paradoxically we think are going to make us perform higher, and they can tend to destroy us. So we have to have a lot more patience and a lot more compassion. And by having that patience and compassion, we allow ourselves the space to start to create more self-love, which is, by the way, what the whole overlying principle of everything I'm saying is really about self-love. So, but there's practices and methods to get it. So as we go through this, you're going to see, you know, you need to practice these things of just being patient. And just being patient is an amazing thing. So what have we got? Okay, I want you to close your eyes, and I'm going to illustrate this for you. So close your eyes, don't read the text, and I want you to picture a beautiful little baby girl. Just close your eyes, and as you picture this, picture a beautiful baby girl, and she might be a baby, or she might be, you know, 5 or 7. Someone, make her special, someone who's really special, and someone that you really love in your life. Or if you don't have a baby girl like this in your life, you know, a daughter or a future daughter, or you know, a friend's daughter, or something like someone really special for you, or just imagine it. Now, I want you to bring that image really vividly in your mind. I want you to see her really joyous, and I want you to see her loving what she does, playing, being totally carefree. I want you to see what she loves doing. Notice how she doesn't have a care in the world. As you see her wide eyes, her beautiful smile, see how she radiates happiness. Just see her running around, maybe on a summer's day or inside, wherever she is. Okay. Just really enjoy for a moment that amazing energy that she has, the beautiful feeling of possibility, the carefreeness, how present she is, how she's just in this moment, and just really feel how your heart sings as you focus on that, and feel how your heart sings as you see that. Okay. Now I want you to see yourself entering into the picture, and if this was a younger version of you, fine, see your adult self entering the picture, and I want you to see yourself walking over to this beautiful girl. And as you walk up to her, I want you to see her getting really close to her. And now I want you to hit her in your mind. Hit her, and hit her hard. Now scream at her and tell her that she's useless and pathetic and she'll never amount to anything. Now tell me how you feel. Does it feel good to do that? Or are you so disgusted that you're actually angry at me now for making you picture that? Because this is what you do to yourself every time you make yourself feel shame and guilt. You're attacking your most vulnerable part. The baby girl does not deserve that, and neither do you. So I want everybody's agreement. From now on, no shame. If you fail, if you feel like you don't complete the diet prescriptions you said you do for yourself in a given week, fine. No shame, no guilt. Just breathe, forgive, accept, and take whatever step it seems like the right step is at the moment. This is going to take practice. Okay? Your brain's hardwired against you, and you really need to have some compassion for this process. Okay? You're not always going to have the answer. You're not always going to feel like you've done the right thing. You're going to have these experiences where you have these feelings of failure, feelings of pain. It's okay. And we need to become practiced at being present with them without the self-denigration that you give yourself so often, which just creates these behaviors you're trying to avoid. So I want everyone's agreement, and if we can get some agreements in the side of the
Yeah.
side of the thing.
Did I swear again?
There's someone saying he swore. PSJ, get on the floor. It's a lot of people that said get on the floor.
Did I really swear again? This is gold. That's totally swear. Where did I say it?
I didn't hear you swear. Must have been maybe with the audio. You didn't swear.
No, you guys are just picking on me now.
Yeah.
Look. I got it.
Cool.
Good stuff, ladies.
Awesome. Good stuff. So no shame. Do we all understand why did that? Are we all clear on that experience? Do you get it? That is exactly that you do that? Good stuff.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome.
Ooh.
Awesome. Good stuff, ladies. Okay. So let's talk about pattern interrupting. Now, a lot of what I've been doing tonight is to try to get you to go through some patterns and interrupt them as it is. Now, we have patterns that we run. We have emotions that start, and then we begin a behavior. Now, for a lot of you, we're going to just use the context of eating, but it could be also maybe, let's say, going to work out. Maybe like you have an emotion, you're stressed, or you're feeling rejected, isolated, alone, depressed, sad, angry, whatever it is, and it doesn't matter necessarily what triggers it. That's not what's important. What's important is observing that you have the emotion comes up, and it can come up at any time and from any situation, and it will, and for every person you'll have default emotions you go to on a regular basis, and you're constantly having that emotion come up, and it comes up again and again and again and again, and most of you don't even realize it. You say, oh, it's just this person at work, or oh, it's just this situation, or I just had a bad day. Well, every time it's because these emotions are coming up, and you hate these emotions, and so you fight them, and it creates all sorts of internal stress and turmoil, and it's exhausting. And what happens instantly is to get away from that stress, to get away from that turmoil, we go straight into these old behaviors, okay? So these old behaviors are designed to mitigate those emotions. They're designed to change your state so you can get back to a place of what you might experience as call peace, okay? A lot of my information tonight is designed to have you so you can't experience peace there anymore, because I don't want you to experience peace there anymore, because those behaviors aren't serving you. So if you go into a state where you're stressed and you suddenly feel like, oh man, oh God, I've got to suddenly eat. Well, A, we described it's fine. If you do, that's totally fine. And we're going to forgive, we're going to breathe, and that in itself is a pattern interrupt. Because when we add a new behavior to an old behavior chain, then that's fine. What we're doing is we're changing the chain. And as we change the chain, what's going to happen is you forgive and you end up in a better state. Your brain goes, hey, wow, that was different. I ended up feeling quite peaceful after that. So after a while, your brain goes, you know what, I just want to skip the feeling crappy, guilt and shame, and I'm just going to go straight for the peace. Okay? It takes a while. Okay? We've literally got our own brain working against us, so it's going to take a while, but it will start to do that. And every time you link that pleasurable state of relaxing, breathing, forgiving and accepting yourself, and just saying, hey, you know what? Fuck it, I'm not perfect. So I might have to do a bit. I'll do it for you, bro. I might, yeah, Jason's do it for me. It's great. All right, ladies, I might start swearing. So if we go into a new behavior, we start the same emotions, same emotional process is going to happen. Just because we talked about these things tonight doesn't mean tomorrow that when you go into work and your boss is a jerk, or you are overwhelmed at work, or you've got just so many things that you have to get done and people aren't appreciating you, and you go into these states where you're just getting a little bit, where you're stressed out, and that same doesn't mean that same state's not going to come up, because it is going to come up. It's going to come up every day for the rest of your life. It's going to continue to come up. There isn't going to be a day between now and the rest of your life where you aren't going to have some pattern like this come up. I'm sorry, but it's pretty much the case. But that's fine, because it's just teaching you how to control your mind, control your emotions, and not even control them, but just create new emotions from whatever state you're in. So we want to interrupt that old behavior, and what that means is that when we're going into say we're craving those, let's say we're craving potato chips because we're feeling really, really stressed, and we just go, so far what's been happening is people just crave the potato chips, and you don't realize that there's an emotion behind it, because you've allowed, the brain has wired this behavior to be so fast that you haven't even gotten awareness that there's an emotion driving it. So as we start to get that, this is where the brain hunger versus body hunger distinction is so powerful. As you start to differentiate those two, then you might get that craving for potato chips where you might go first, oh wow, the first distinction you might get is, oh wow, this is a brain hunger. Now you might still eat the potato chips and that's fine, you forgive yourself and that's cool, it's a different behavior. Cool, you enjoy the potato chips, great, enjoy them. Don't forget to eat them. Don't beat yourself up the whole time you're doing it. It's not helpful. Just enjoy them, okay? Forgive yourself, and you're going to be less likely to do it later, okay?
Is this the same for cream donuts? Because I'm a big fan of that. Hey, it's my birthday tomorrow, by the way.
Oh man, is it really?
No, I'm joking.
Just dropping that in. No, it's not. Oh, good. So as we become more aware, we will start to notice. So the first thing you might notice is, oh wow, I'm really craving potato chips. There's definitely brain hunger, but I still am going to eat them. Then you might say, okay, oh, this is brain hunger, and I don't really feel like potato chips. And then you might go, oh wow, this is brain hunger, but you know what? I'm actually feeling like really sad, or I feel really isolated, or I feel rejected, or I feel abandoned, or I feel angry, or I feel ashamed, or some other emotion is going to start to become, you're going to become aware of that. You're going to be like, whoa, I had no idea, like, why am I feeling like this? And when you start to get to that point, you can start to explore, hold on, what's made me feel like this? And you can start to identify what are the things in your environment that you've made mean that have triggered this old emotion. And as you realize what these things are being triggered by, you can start to be like, you can observe them. And eventually the holy grail is to be able to have these emotions come up and you don't react to them. You just literally observe them. And you can experience them in your body, and you still experience them, they still feel yucky, and you feel them in your body, but they're not controlling you. And as you develop the awareness, the ability to observe these things, and as you create more forgiveness for yourself, this will start to be automatic. And as you begin to make that automatic, you gain control over these entire patterns that have been dominating you for a long period of time. So, in other words, to interrupt your behavior, you can just simply begin to pay attention to observing when it's happening and forgiving. Every time you just do forgiveness, every time that's an interruption of that behavior, because previously it would have been shame or guilt. So interrupt that pattern enough, and the old behavior, the rule is if you interrupt the pattern enough times, the old behavior will stop running. And if you interrupt the pattern enough times with something that's pleasurable, like forgiveness, which is actually quite pleasurable, feels good, better than guilt and shame, then you'll actually start to wire the brain faster. So we want to practice doing that.
I love this shit.
Yeah, cool.
This is cool.
That's going to be a burpee for you. All right. So we're going to get into some tools now, and there are a few of them. So in terms of developing your capacity for observation and also for inner peace, which I cannot recommend highly enough, it does take a little while, or it can take a little while to get your head around doing this. At first, when you start doing this, it can feel like ants are crawling all over your skin, and the last thing you want to do is be with your own thoughts and be with your own mind. But it is probably the most powerful single practice that any person can do, and that's that you should be meditating. Every single person on this call should meditate daily. You can start with 5 minutes, and there is 2 apps for this that I can wholeheartedly recommend. One is called Headspace.com. Now, Headspace is an amazing platform. It basically starts you off with very, very little time investment, and it progresses up, and you can see how far you're progressing, and you can go along this journey until you're upping it to 20 minutes a day or whatever. And that might sound like a lot of time, but it's really not. And the rewards you get out of it just accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. And specifically for food cravings, the best thing is that what it does, the research is just really showing this now, is that there's a part of your brain which is called the amygdala in your limbic system, and it really deals with fear and with becoming triggered by things, survival threats, and those become emotionally intense, and those emotions drive you to eat negatively. And when that happens, the frontal part of your brain, which has the ability to restrict or make good decisions, it gets dominated. Now, when you meditate, this part of your brain, the wiring between those 2 parts of your brain gets stronger, so in the reverse, so that you can actually overpower that brain with good decisions. And also, the part of the brain at the back, the limbic system, it shrinks. The amygdala actually shrinks. So you get less afraid of things, you get less triggered into things, and so you're less reactive, and reaction is the reactiveness is the dangerous part. So that's what we want to change. So Calm.com is another good one for that, but I definitely recommend that you write these down and you start looking into this. So it really would be beneficial to meditate every day. It also builds a lot of self-compassion. Meditation is very, very well known for building self-compassion, which is very powerful. And if you want to add to that, you can do 5 minutes at the end of it, just being grateful. Gratitude is not on here, but gratitude is one of the most powerful practices you can do, which is kind of down forgiving, shame, and guilt. So I'm going to skip Craven's flashcard for now. We'll go down to this observation, brain hunger versus body hunger. So again, as you meditate, you'll gain the capacity to do more observation. Now, brain hunger versus body hunger is what you want to focus on when you want to focus your mind mentally, asking yourself the question, is this brain hunger or is this body hunger? And just ask that. I want that on loop, right? So I literally want that in your brain on loop every time you're eating. Is this brain hunger or body hunger? I want that so ingrained, or you want to ingrain that in your brain to such an extent that you cannot eat without knowing if it's brain hunger or body hunger. So every time you're doing it, you know. Then after a while, once you get to that point, what's going to happen is if you continue to do that practice, your brain will automatically begin to rewire, because you're going to start to see how pleasurable it would be. As soon as your brain sees and experiences pleasure associated with just eating for body hunger and not eating for brain hunger, your brain's going to start to rewire very quickly. So you want to focus on that. It's very powerful. Now, we talked about forgiving shame and guilt. Now, shame and guilt, we've already talked about that. It's so important. You must be forgiving of yourself. You absolutely must. It's absolutely critical. Nothing could be more important. Anytime you're allowing yourself to go into shame and guilt, you're doing nothing for your progress. And don't go and make yourself feel guilty or shamed about that. If you go and feel guilty and shame, and that's what happens, please don't go and then use that as an excuse to create more guilt and shame, which is exactly what people do, and it creates this incredible pattern of just ingraining the shame and the guilt right into themselves, okay?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a complete perpetual cycle. It's ruthless. It's an absolutely ruthless cycle, and so many women suffer from it. So we really don't want to go into that cycle. It can totally own you. So just practice forgiving. It's just like, you know what, hey, it happened, fine, doesn't matter, and that's it. And we're just letting it go, and you want to practice letting it go. Now, there's a few more here. So EFT. EFT is a slightly more, it's pretty simple. You can do some EFT if you go online. You can go to YouTube and search EFT. Now, what EFT basically is a practice where you're tapping on various pressure points on your body. So, you know, around the eye. There's a few, you have to go online really and do a bit of your own research for that. But it's very, very simple. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. So EFT is good when you're experiencing a degree of stress or emotion. And actually, I'll do a wee demo when we put the in the Q&A. I can show you the points on the camera. So EFT is helpful. I'll put here high level friendships or a friendship goal. So if you're looking to change your life, you're looking to become a better you. One of the crucial things you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get higher level friends. It's going to be absolutely, absolutely important. You need people that are supporting you. You need to weed out people that are criticizing you. You may not have even realized that you've got critical people in your life. You may have just been tolerating that. It's not really a good thing. You shouldn't really be experiencing that. So we want to do everything we can to surround ourselves with people who are supporting us in our highest values. Not the values that they want from us, by the way, okay? A lot of people are hanging out with people that want people to be a certain way. We need to start moving away from that if we're going to start creating ourselves the way we are. There is abundance in the universe. There are plenty of people out there that will love you and cherish you more than you do your current friends do right now. So some of them anyway, so don't be afraid of moving past that, even though that can be quite a scary thing. And the other thing is a cravings flashcard. So you can get a little card, make up a little card for yourself. It's a really cool thing to do because it's quite emotionally powerful. Write on the card on one side what your purpose is. In other words, why are you trying to lose this weight? Who are you trying to become? What are your values? Who's the identity of this new person you're trying to create? And put an image on there that represents that to you, as well as some kind of mantra. So maybe the mantra might be, I forgive myself, right? And just practice, I forgive myself. And you can change these things. But have a picture of that on there. And then when you feel cravings, if you feel like you're going to give into cravings, keep this on you. Put this in your wallet and just pull this out and have a little look at it and allow yourself to just connect back in with why you're making choices for yourself to be healthy and move forward in your life. And just keep that focus in your mind every day. And as you do that, I recommend doing some visualization in the morning to really just drive this in so you constantly got this top of mind. So those are some really cool tools. There are other ones for some people that really struggle and find things particularly challenging, where their really logic is overriding their mind. There are some more complex ones, we have some cool tools we charge $5,000 for, which work within about a week, which are really cool. So I'm going to go into a Q&A in a second. First off, I have an offer for some of the Rapid clients. So if you're on this webinar, I currently own and operate a fitness facility based in Newmarket called the Fitness Department. And so I'm going to give 3 people tonight an offer. We're going to do a personalised fitness program with one of our trainers, 6 months of monitoring and 6 months access to our facility, which is valued at over $2,000. I'm also going to give a private session with me, so there'll be a 60 to 90 minute consultation with me, which is valued at over $500. And so with that, with the monitoring, the program, the guidance, access to our facility, and coaching session, it's over $2,500 in value. So I am going to give that to 3 people on this webinar for just $650. So if you want, then you can email me. You need to be one of the first 3. And you need to send that email to info@thefitnessdepartment.com with the subject line Rapid Offer. And we'll be in touch. So it's just for 3 people. It's the first 3, first in, first serve. I'm just doing that so we can do something cool for any of the people on the line tonight that don't currently have a gym, because there will be some people here. All right. So fire that over. I'll just give you 1 second to write down the email. So it's info@thefitnessdepartment.com, and if anyone wants that, we can ask it in the questionnaire. And
I might take it.
yeah. And we'll rock into, so supercharging is another tool that we do, but that's about $5,000. It works in about a week, and it pretty much will overcome any particular emotional block that you've had, no matter how long that emotional block's been going on for. So you might have had that going on for, several decades, and that will still be eliminated in about a week. It's very, very powerful.
I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah, super, super cool stuff. All right, yeah. So
wait, I'm just gonna.
That's me.
Team. Hang on a second. I'm just gonna bring Cam. Just so I can Q&A you. Okay, hang on.
Cool. Oh, that's right, Sophie.
That's right. We'll record it. It's recorded, so we'll send it to you.
So yeah, that email again. Actually, Jay will just type the email in the comments thing if you want to send the email through. If you want to take me up on that offer, you have to be one of the first 3. So Jay's going to just put the email up there.
What.com?
info@thefitnessdepartment.com. Yeah. Cool.
Just quickly, how's everyone found it so far?
Cool.
No, I'm not doing burpees till I wait.
What did you say?
Have we got any questions? Has anyone got anything that they want to drill Cam for?
Yeah, if there's any feedback or anything in the chat, just fire in the comments. How was that? So let me know. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know what your reactions were to that, and yeah, fire at us. And we'll just wait for some of those to come through. Got a few people. Great deal. Wish I was in Auckland. Yeah. Sorry, Petra. Don't have a gym anywhere else yet. Yeah. Putting your applause. Yeah, cool. So we're gonna do another. There'll be a replay for this. Really good. Cool.
Cool.
Just go up. I think we missed some. Yeah. Can we see the ones that came before that? Or
yeah.
Cool. Cool. Cool, Anastasia. Glad you're fine. Cool. Kylie says amazing. Thanks, Kylie. Donna, thumbs up to you too. Nazia, awesome. Cool. That's great.
Oh, Tilly's on board. Hi, Tilly.
Okay, cool. Tilly says, any chance you could drill into the brain hunger, real hunger? Cool. So, yeah, absolutely. So, the, hey Jackie, hey Julie. So, the brain hunger, body hunger, basically is a distinction that as you become more aware of your body and of the patterns that you have with your eating, you're going to start to notice that there are times where you're eating where you didn't need to eat. Like you totally know Oh yeah, actually, please, sorry, give me, definitely keen to have some feedback around the visualization. Let me know how that visualization went for you. We don't seem to be able to go back up in the chat, and I think so. We've probably missed the people that your comments while we were doing that. Yeah, I'm not sure if we can get the history if we can. So. Yeah, I know it's a bit scary in a good way. Cool. Many aha moments. Great. So worry about not following the program versus listening to hunger. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's probably a question for Jay around the specific diet stuff. But to not in agreement the whole time. Yeah. Sorry. So Tilly. So back to your question. So the brain hunger versus, keep those comments coming, guys. So brain hunger versus body hunger. As you become more aware of your body's natural signals, now of course there are obviously times where when you're re-regulating like metabolism, right, and you need to actually eat at certain times, and that's part of a plan. That's something a bit different. So you really want to be continue to focus on that plan. Like if you've been given some certain plan things that you need to do, then obviously re-regulating that metabolism comes in that. What this brain hunger versus body hunger distinction is really about is when you're coming to cravings and you're eating food that isn't really good for you and you know it's not that good for you, and you really maybe you don't want to eat it, but you then later on you realize, oh, you ate it and it wasn't so good. Then it's really about learning to make that distinction between brain hunger and body hunger. So understanding, am I eating now because I'm either really, I know that I need to physically, or am I just eating it because of whatever reason, for no real reason, which is a brain hunger? And you'll notice there are different. So your body will give you different physical symptoms. So you may have different salivation or different actual physical feelings in your body, but you'll need to tune into them. I hope that makes sense. So let me know if that's clear enough for you. Cool. Okay, we've got some great feedback coming through. Comments for burpees.
What about donuts?
Feeling like a deer in the headlights. Okay, cool. What do you want to explain a bit more, Sophie? How can we help you with that? Very emotional for me, tears from cool. Okay, that's fantastic, Patricia. That's really, really cool. I'm really glad. Really happy. Catherine, sorry, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. Really struck a chord with me. Quit my job 2 months ago as it just wasn't me. 5 years of vet school and worked for 1.5 years, and I've realised I don't like being a vet. Awkward. Yeah, sometimes you just got to have a sense of humour about this. Yeah, I know. It's look, it takes a lot of courage, and so congratulations on the courage that you've shown to do that. That's huge, and at the end of the day, you're going to be so much better off for it. So, way to go. Cool. Yeah, Sophie, hopefully it'll become a bit clearer. Okay, cool. Finally, Victoria, Sophie. Yeah, there's a lot. Look, I've given you a lot. Okay, like there's a lot in here, and if you haven't been sort of focused on this, there's going to be a lot of stuff. Yeah, that can definitely be like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Values determination process. That is a fantastic sheet. Values determination process by John DeMartini. That's fantastic.
So that was one.
Yeah, so you can work out values in many different ways. That's a really good way to do it. So values determination process by John DeMartini. That's really, really cool.
I'm joking about donuts, jeez.
Perfect.
No, I'm not.
Visualizations. Yeah, so Elizabeth, with the values, so Elizabeth says some really cool stuff, and the values, you feel like your values are a bit airy-fairy? Absolutely. So most people's values are very airy-fairy, and it makes life very, very difficult, because how do you make decisions if you don't know what your values are and you're not really, really clear on it? So the John DeMartini values determination process is a very powerful one. So that is something to Google. It's very easy to do. It's very powerful. Okay, another Sophie, more tears. Okay, perfect. That's good, because that means that we're getting into your emotional level, which is really cool. Thanks, Tilly. That's cool. Glad we've cleared that up.
We'll process the video as well. So I mean, you guys we'll put this in the community so you can all get it.
Cool.
And the slides? Yeah.
Yeah. Check the slides in as well. Cool. Next 3 days, envious ignorance imitations. I said, yeah, I love that. I love that quote, Anastasia. It's so cool. Yeah, so Patricia will get the slides in the video for you as well. 2 major surgeries. Okay, so Kylie says 2 major surgeries and have now been diagnosed with CRPS. What's CRPS? You know what CRPS is? Okay.
No, CRPS.
They want me to take. Okay, welcome. Their name is completely cancelled. You know, really appreciate. Okay. Hey, Kylie, one thing that you can do, because I'm not a doctor, I can't give you any medical advice around that. I don't actually know what CRPS is either. But one thing you can do is hypnotherapy is extremely powerful for pain relief. So seeking out a really good hypnotherapist and to do that. There's a couple in Auckland I know that I can recommend wholeheartedly. One is Carolyn Cranshaw. She's amazing, and there is one other which I can't. It's not springing to my mind right now, but yeah, a hypnotherapist would be a really good alternative, and see if it's just for the pain, see how that goes. Try that as a first point of call, and see how you do a couple of sessions of that, and that should help you out quite a lot. Cool. So. Oh yeah, Grace. Yeah, so sometimes there are, just things where. So Grace just asks if what I said a minute ago about moving deep-seated blockages. So sometimes we have patterns that just, despite all of our logical efforts, we just can't seem to override emotionally. So I was just saying we have, some of the tools for that. You can get something. I have a tool called Supercharging. It's which works in about 7 days for pretty much anything. It's very, very powerful. It's very expensive though, because it's incredibly hard to do. So it costs about $5,000, but it does work very effectively. And if you'd like to talk to me about that more, then you can. It generally takes about 7 days to override and really have you feeling pretty amazing, frankly. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You can, it's been used that particular tool's been used to have people quit methamphetamine and all sorts of things. It's extremely powerful. So I want to chat about cool complex regional. Oh, okay, complex regional pain syndrome. Yeah, okay. So Jessica, all thanks. So pain. So all of the pain receptors are in the brain. Pain is in the brain. Is how it goes. Didn't mean it to rhyme, but that's how it is. So pain is situated in your brain, not in your body. So it is possible to use your mind to actually turn those off or turn them down. Visualizations was it was negativity, but yeah, okay, cool. Where was it? Yeah, definitely, Emmeline. Yeah, absolutely. They're both very powerful, and you'll honestly change your life by meditating. You really will. It's an amazing tool. And yeah, we're still. I am still going to release. I did design some hypnosis tracks, but I wasn't 100% happy with that. So I'm going to redo them towards the end of the year, and they'll be even cooler. So you can keep a lookout for them to help you out here. So, do we have any other questions? Are there any other questions that we've got here? If you have any other questions, fire away. We'll hang on for another few minutes. And otherwise, we'll raise hands too. What are those raised hands?
The what? It
says raised hands too. Up there. Yeah.
Is that like a high five or something?
I don't know, maybe. Cool. Thanks. Awesome.
Cool. Well, I'm glad everyone liked it. The feedback's been pretty cool so far.
Yeah.
You're the man. Cool. I really enjoyed that too. That's cool.
Awesome.
Team, so I'll have this video up much sooner than I had the last one. It's just I've got a zillion things to get done in the next couple of days, so please bear with me, be patient. We hope you enjoyed it, and we're probably going to try and run these seminars a bit more regularly too. So if anyone's got any suggestions or anything they want us to present on, then please let us know. But we'll definitely have Cam back as a regular feature. And burpees, yes. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. You need to know some burpees. So hold on, let me.
Now I'm just a bit. Oh, look at that! Actually, I can't fit, man.
Oh, it's going to be tough. He's athletic. Yeah. How many is he going to do? Several. Here we go. Go, Jay.
I only swore 3 times.
All right.
Okay. Okay, thanks, team.
Yeah. Cool. Oh yeah, the EFT stuff. We haven't done the EFT. Okay, cool. Another time we might cover some EFT. Google is a really powerful way. Just go jump on YouTube and search for some EFT. You can find some more detail out on that. Cooking webinar here. Absolutely.
Yes, just as actually.
Cool. Nice, Catherine. That's great. All right.
Thanks, team.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
See you later. Bye.